What's up, guys? Happy fantasy sports talking, or whatever you want to call it. We're here to talk a little fantasy football. DFS has not been a thing for a while, so we're just getting that jump on year long and ready to dive into another player that I'm sure a lot of people have a couple question marks on. Very productive down the stretch last year was Kenyan Drake. What is your initial thoughts on him?
I know he's a guy that you liked a lot last year. And I mean, especially after he got traded, you're a big fan of his talents. And I see how a lot of people are high on him. And I get it, man. I just get it. Like, the offense should be good. He's going to be the bell cow. What's not to like? There's not a lot not to like, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the Cardinals play last year, no questions about it. He looked a lot better than David Johnson. I don't think that was deniable. So when we did the David Johnson video earlier this year, I think part of the thing that we were kind of hounding on is like we just don't really know how good he is right now. I think this kid can play, so I'm excited to run through a couple of these things. If you're new to the station, guys, subscribe for more fantasy football videos. When DFS is back, we'll be talking about that. Don't forget to check out show sponsor Overlay Fantasy Sports when sports are back. As far as the Arizona Cardinals go, we're running into year 2 now of the Cliff Kingsbury regime, I guess is the best way to look at it. Now, they labeled Tom Clements as the offensive coordinator, but really this all runs through Kingsbury. First year in the pros last year. What were your thoughts on him in college? Did you think this was going to work for him at the professional level?
I mean, listen, he didn't even have a winning record in college. So I understand why a lot of people still question whether he's, got the credentials to be an NFL head coach. However, his offense has obviously been used throughout the NFL circles for a while now. And I think that with a quarterback that, he's grooming in Kyler Murray, obviously they have a number 1 wide receiver now. You and I and a lot of other people like Kenyan Drake, they're going to have to play well this year. But listen, the talent's there. I'm not sure what to expect of Kingsbury because I'll buy it when I see it. But, I mean, he's got the job, so they know more than I do, right?
I would say that the Arizona Cardinals and how they play out this year, the addition of Hopkins, watching how Kyler Murray makes steps in year 2 as well as Kingsbury in year 2, one of the more intriguing teams to check out this year. I know they're kind of, I wouldn't call them a hot button team. They're a team that people are excited about what could happen. Nothing's going to surprise me this season. 4-12 and 12-4, and everything in the middle is where I could see the Arizona Cardinals ending up.
Same. They remind me an awful lot of the Browns last year. I think they're better, but they do remind me a lot of the Browns.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see why you would think that.
I mean, all the parallels are there. Number 1 quarterback, second year, traded for a stud wide receiver, a lot of hype going into their second year. I mean, there's a lot of similarities there.
All right. We will skip the statistics of Kenyan Drake for some reason. It did not save for me when I switched him over for Geis. One of the things I will point out there for Drake as far as his stats go, he had a really, really solid yards per carry last year. He was very effective on a per-touch basis. This is a guy that can make it work within the passing game, but is a very nice runner of the football. As far as the key additions and losses go for this team, there's not a lot to talk about, with the exception of one major move, which will shape this team a lot. David Johnson is gone, clearing the way for Kenyan Drake to be the, without question, number 1 back here. And they added a legit number 1 wideout in DeAndre Hopkins, which should help to move the chains. Their receiving core is pretty strong now with Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and you got Larry Fitzgerald still there, at least at a mentor standpoint at the very least.
I think it's rock solid. I like Kirk. I like what he has to offer. Fitzgerald is old, but he can offer a lot in the locker room and other things. He's still
right. At the very least, he's a good locker room presence.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he's fine. You're not counting on him anymore to be the number 1. You've got, maybe the best number 1 in football now. Quarterback coming into his second year. We've talked over a bunch of these teams, additions and subtractions, and not many have really stood out. This one stands out.
Yeah, exactly. Not a lot of moves, but the one they made is absolutely massive. It's why Kenyan Drake, I mean, if they don't make this move, then I think you're looking at Drake as like a round 4 or round 5 type of guy because you can't even be 100% sure he's going to be a bell cow, and you also don't know how good the offense is going to be. When you add a legit number 1 wideout, man, does it make a difference.
For sure.
All right. So, where is Drake going? He is a guy who's got a decent amount of variance within his overall ADP early on in May right now. I'm finding him as high up as, number 20 overall, and his low down is number 35 overall. Look, man, if you can get him in the middle of the fourth round, I think that is a potential steal of the draft. I think the 20, 25 overall is more about the lines where I'm looking at him.
I don't see him last into the fourth round in most leagues. I just don't see it.
I'm with you 100%.
He's a guy like, we've talked about a couple of these running backs. I see in ESPN's PPR rankings, he's right smack dab in between Josh Jacobs and Leonard Fournette, two guys that we've made videos on already. So
we haven't done the Fournette video. We brought him up in the original one. Fournette's a guy that's slipping, though. And Jacobs and Kenyan Drake, who we're talking about right now, these guys are both on the rise. So I'm with you. I don't think there's any way he's lasting until 35th overall, especially as we get closer to the season.
Would you rather have Drake or Fournette?
Well, right now, I'll take Drake. I like this offense to be better. Because of the signing of Chris Thompson on a team that I can't trust to be good, I get worried. There was a lot of games last year where Fournette was 19 carries for 62 yards. You're like, well, that's not very good. But then he caught 5 balls for, 32 yards, and that extra 8 points helps. There's no security in him getting those anymore.
No, agree. Drake or Jacobs?
Jacobs, by the subtlest of margins.
Drake or I'll go 2 more. Drake or Mixon?
Drake.
I'm with you. I like Drake a lot. And I know you like Drake over Chubb, and so do I, even though Chubb and Aaron Jones are still ranked real high.
Yeah, I think both of those guys fall, especially Aaron Jones. If A.J. Dillon can get any kind of pub or press within the preseason, and it looks like the Packers are moving that way, I think Aaron Jones is the guy who falls a lot more. Nick Chubb's, I don't like the spot for him, but he's so good. It's hard not to have at least one guy in your draft that thinks very highly of him, right?
For sure.
So, again, going back to some of the things to like about Kenyan Drake, again, if you can get him at 35 overall, that's a big-time steal. But we both definitely feel he's going to be on the rise. I expect his ADP come fantasy football time to be more like 18 to 25 would be my prediction. Again, that's just a guess. One of the other things to like about Kenyan Drake this year, and might go a little bit under the radar for the casual fantasy player, this guy's on a 1-year contract. And what that means from the Arizona Cardinals, it'll wear him out. I mean, this guy can get a ton of touches because we've seen what they do with running backs. Running backs are used and abused by rich people standards, right? They get, they make their money while they're out there, but they use them up and just kick them out. So there's a good expectation. That's what they're going to do with Kenyan Drake this year, is give him all the touches he can handle.
Yeah, I like him a lot, man. I agree with that wholeheartedly. He's my favorite piece of the Arizona offense, ADP considered.
Definitely, because overall, we're both much bigger fans of DeAndre Hopkins, but the receiver position is significantly harder to come in with a second-year rookie, second-year quarterback like this, and just expect there to be instant chemistry, right? Hopkins will get his, but I wouldn't be flabbergasted if Hopkins is a little bit of a letdown this year, just because this offense does have, some explosive ways to beat you. Murray can run the ball. Obviously, Kenyan Drake can play. Christian Kirk is no scrub. Larry Fitzgerald is still out there. I like Hopkins, but I'm not surprised if he's a subtle letdown this year.
I completely agree. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Drake is has a ton of touchdowns. Drake is good, so I'm with you 100% all the way around there.
He's got no real stiff competition. Again,
I'll tell you what. Right now, the way we're talking, if I'm in a 12 or 14 person draft, and I'm sitting there with the 12th or 14th pick, I could easily see myself taking Jacobs and Drake.
Oh, I like the balls that you have in a situation like that. And I know you're somebody who would do that too. Say, I'm a believer in these guys. I'm going to take them both right here, knowing there's no way that they get back to me. And I'm not going to be a slave to the rankings, because personally, I like them better than the guys ahead of them. And taking who you want, because there's zero chance they're coming back to you.
Zero chance. And listen, there are guys ahead of them that you could make arguments for, but once the draft is done, you throw all that stuff out the window. And once the season starts, certainly. So I think both those guys, and I'm starting to really like Drake a lot.
That's what I sometimes hate about. I don't do a lot of snake drafts these days. It's mostly all auction, but that's what I really dislike about the wraparound pick. Again, there's a lot of times I like the wraparound pick because you take the two guys you want. But there's other times where you're like, man, this is the guy I want, but I know I could get him in 6 picks, but I'm not getting him in 20 picks.
Exactly. That's one of the worst parts about snake drafts.
Right. So if you haven't done an auction draft yet, try it out, guys. I promise you, most of you guys are DFS players, and it absolutely flabbergasts me how many hardcore DFS players I've talked to who still haven't done a year-long auction. It's almost a little bit odd because you'd feel like there'd be more of a connection between the two of them. So if you play it, you will like it. Y'all are DFS players. You're good at this. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, especially now. There's time. You can practice. You can take your time and try to look and learn about it because they're just a lot more fun, and you literally get the players you want.
All right, off of fantasy football for 2 seconds. Gun to head. Arizona, above or below 500 this year?
I'm going to say right at 500.
That's about what I'm thinking. That's why I put the threshold right there. I was thinking, do I want to bet on 7-9 or 9-7?
Hopkins is splashy, and I like Hopkins a lot. But number one wideouts don't translate to wins, like hardly ever. And listen, I'm not sure about Kingsbury. I love Murray as an athlete and a fantasy quarterback. I'm just not sure about him as like a real life quarterback in the NFL. Not that he's not good, but is he going to be great? That's a big difference, right? I mean, if he's great, if Murray takes a big step, then yeah, I could see them being 12-4, like you talked about, because he's crazy athletic. And I just don't know if he has that in him, but it has much more to do with him than anyone else, in my opinion.
I mean, he's a quarterback. I can't argue with that position in the slightest, right? Most important guy in the football field, no question. So I think before the video, I would have said 9-7, but your little comment about this year's Cleveland Browns has definitely got my mind thinking that maybe this just won't all work year one. Maybe it comes out and works, the second year that Hopkins and Murray have the opportunity to play together or something like that. So you really got me thinking there when you compare him to the Browns, because there are some good comparisons. Bringing in a stud wide receiver 1, second-year quarterback with a lot of hype, a lot of people talking about him.
Not sure if we buy into the head coach, defense that could be skeptical, that doesn't have a lot of big names. I mean, listen, they could be better than the Browns last year. The Browns really disappointed. They also play in a tough division. Are we expecting
very tough?
Yeah, real tough. Are we expecting them to be better than Seattle? I mean, I don't think so. San Fran, no. And then the Rams is a good question, because I could see the Rams being bad. But we've talked about this. I can also see them being better than people think and being better than Arizona. They just don't have the splashy names.
No doubt about it. And again, at the end of the year, if Arizona's a better team than Seattle, I don't think either one of us will come on here and tell you, I can't believe it. It's a shock of the season. But I wouldn't bet $1 on that, right? We've seen Seattle, even when it's nothing but Russell Wilson and the defense isn't what it once was, they find a way to win games. They take a guy like a Chris Carson, they turn him into a good bell cow running back. They play hard, right? I mean, you're a bigger Pete Carroll fan than I am, but I can't knock the fact that he gets that team to play hard on a weekly basis for the majority of the time he's been up there in Seattle. I would never bet on Arizona to be better than Seattle.
I trust Seattle more than San Fran this year.
I think the peak for San Fran is still significantly higher because of what a beast their defense is. But if you told me gun to head, my dog and my kids' lives are on the line and I need one of these teams to be 8-8 or better, I would also bet on Seattle.
I couldn't agree more with that whole point, because yeah, you're right. They just made the Super Bowl and they were close to winning it. But yeah, I just trust Seattle to be good. If things are falling apart, like you talked about, I trust Seattle more than San Fran. San Fran just hasn't done it for long enough.
Right. When it's gut check time, you feel really good about what the Seahawks can provide. Whereas with the 49ers, you were good last year. But we've seen this Super Bowl hangover for the losing team plenty of times when it made no sense. There is a real, change when you are now the hunted, when you know that your only aspiration for success is a Super Bowl. And if things don't go swimmingly right away, it's easy for those things to compile and get worse.
For sure. I mean, I don't think that the Rams weren't garbage last year, but they weren't anything special at all. They were definitely a disappointment.
I think what you learned about the Rams was Jared Goff is a good game manager, and you need the running game to be effective for him to be effective. So when they were really easing up on Todd Gurley and relying on the right arm of Jared Goff, they just weren't good enough to do that. And I think, how will the running backs play this year? If this young rookie is as good as we expect him to be, or if he plays really, really well, I think the Rams could be good. But if they struggle to run the ball, I don't think they will be very good. They really seem to go that way.
I agree. It's all the Rams are now all about like running in their defense. I think they've got maybe the best defensive player in the game in Aaron Donald. They still have now they have Jalen Ramsey as a number one cornerback, and they should be able to rely on their running game. So I'm 100% with you. The Rams could be better this year than last year. I keep going back and forth on this. They have no expectations. They're still good. They still have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Just talked about their defense. I think the Rams could be getting slept on because Arizona has splashier names, but I'm really not convinced they're going to be better than the Rams.
I mean, if you asked me right now to pick one division in football where every team could be 500 or better, it would be this one in the NFC North. Would be the only ones I think I could really even make a rational case for that happening. Maybe the AFC or the NFC South. Nothing in the AFC, but I think this would be my number one bet for something like that.
I agree.
So it's an exciting division, exciting team, exciting player. I like watching teams that haven't been good in a while all of a sudden become better, and I think Arizona has the opportunity for that. You definitely got me frazzled when you mentioned the Cleveland Browns comparison, but I like watching new teams be good because we all get sick of watching the same teams that are there every year.
No doubt about it.
Except
Browns,
for the Packers,
Cardinals,
we
Super
want
Bowl.
them there.
What?
Browns, Cardinals, Super Bowl. I will find a way to buy those tickets for you if that happens.
It does get me encouraged though, like about Baker Mayfield when I hear stuff like, CeeDee Lamb was asked. He's the wide receiver that got drafted by the Cowboys. He played with both Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, and he was asked who was the best quarterback he played with in college, and he was like Baker Mayfield easily. So that's kind of stuff gets me, like maybe this is a big year for the Browns. So I'm getting excited.
We see a lot of sophomore slumps. It's a very typical season for people to, some people elevate and some people, they come back down to earth because some people come out swinging. And I'll give this comparison to people who've done sales before. Like some people come out year one, they do their thing. They're very effective at it. They're aggressive. And then year two, the league makes adjustments and they slow down. A lot of guys are the opposite. They come in, they're learning year one. Maybe they're a little bit passive because they don't feel comfortable yet. But once they get it and they feel comfortable, they start going. For anybody who's worked in a business before, when you have salespeople, it's the same thing. Some people start slow because they're just not comfortable to talk that smack yet, to go out there. But once they learn, they really get rolling. Other guys, the guys who can BS, they come in day one, get a hot start, and then they fade a little bit. We've all seen those things over and over again.
No doubt about it.
So, all right, guys, thank you very much. Click the thumbs up video. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.